On February 17th, I recorded for you guys planting all of the tomato seeds and all of the peppers and chili seeds and a few flowers and herb seeds. And I haven't given you guys any updates. I apologize for that, to see how they're doing. Everything's doing pretty well. A couple of things were not successful, but that's just kind of how it goes. So I wanted to give you a little update today. Today is April 2nd, so it's been about 6 weeks since I planted those seeds. And I also want to show you what I've done with a few of them and what stage some other ones are at. So here are the tomato plants and the basil. This one here is basil. And then here's the tomato plants. They're all between, I'd say, about 4 to 6 inches tall, and they're doing okay. Actually, right here, this one is a sage, and these 2 rows are tomatoes. And then this whole flat is tomatoes, except for the basil here. And then we have our peppers and chilies right here. So you can see here. Now, all of these were planted on the 17th, except I had no germination on the cayenne except for one. So you can see how tall this one cayenne pepper is. And the other 2 cells did not get any. And so what I did is on March 16th, I went ahead and sowed some more seeds. And we have germination, but they're small, so they're going to take a little longer. But everything did okay except for the shishito peppers. The ones I planted on the 17th of February did not germinate. So I also tried to plant some more of those on March 16th, and none of those germinated either. So considering how all the other peppers did, and I planted them the same way, I am thinking that it was probably a bad package of seeds, which can happen. I don't normally have that happen, but it can happen. So we'll have to try another year, because I think I'm just about out of time to be able to plant peppers and get a good harvest. So what we have here is what we've got, and we'll see how that goes. And this here is the flat of flowers and herbs. As you can see, they're doing okay. These real tall ones here are cosmos. I'm thinking they need to get out into the garden as soon as possible. We've got a few other cosmos varieties here, and bachelor buttons, some pansies, some zinnias. These are more zinnias. Everything's doing good. Some of the tips got burnt a little bit. I'm not sure if they got too close to the light or what, or maybe over-fertilized when they were too young. I'm not sure, but they're doing fine. These are Mexican sunflowers, which I'm excited to see what they look like when they grow. And then on March 18th, 2 days after I reseeded some of those peppers, I decided to seed some dill, some spinach, Swiss chard, some lettuce. It's a lettuce mix. And then I also seeded some tarragon, some thyme, some stevia, and peppermint. And for whatever reason, none of those came up. But that's okay, because the stuff that I saved out of the big pots, we have a video on that, how we emptied out our big pots around the trees. And I wasn't sure if they were going to make it. The things that I saved, they did make it. So I can show you here what those are looking like. And so those are doing just fine. This one here is the peppermint. This one is some oregano. Here's my thyme. And this is valerian. We'll talk about valerian at another date. And then I went ahead and bought another peppermint plant because I wanted another peppermint plant. And right here, we started to do some of the smaller round pots, and one of the stevia plants that I saved is doing well, and it's already been planted. And then same thing here with the tarragon. It's kind of bright out here right now, but that's the tarragon, and it did just fine. So we've got 2 of the 10 round pots planted. And so when we get the other one set up, that's what we'll be doing with these other herbs that we saved. When a seed first germinates, the first leaves that pop out of the ground are called cotyledon leaves. And those leaves are part of the embryo of the seed. And it doesn't really look like the kind of plant that you expect to see from that type of seed that you are growing. But the next set of leaves are going to look like what you're growing. So a tomato plant will look like tomato leaves, but that first leaf doesn't. Same thing with chilies. They don't look like chili leaves or pepper leaves when they first come out of the ground. But once the first set of what's called true leaves, the leaves that actually look like that variety of plant, once those true leaves come up, they're going to need some kind of nutrition, because remember, what we planted them in doesn't have a lot of nutrition. All it was vermiculite and peat moss. So what I do to fertilize these plants is I take 1 teaspoon of fish emulsion and I mix it in 1 gallon of water. And then what I do is I pour it down. Let me show you. I will fill up the bottom of this tray here, and what happens is the plants will suck that up through their roots, and then I wait, I don't know, about an hour or so, and then all the soil will be wet, and if there's any liquid left in the tray, I go ahead and dump that out, because I don't want these plants sitting in a lot of liquid. And so I do that about once a week, maybe once every 1.5 weeks. And that gives them the nutrition that they need until it's time to plant them out. So with tomatoes and chilies, they like to have the warmer weather. You can't have any kind of frost or any kind of freezing going on. So you have to wait until they can be planted out, until you are certain that it's past your last average frost date, and you're keeping an eye on the next 10 days, because like I said, that's an average, so it could frost after that date. So you want to keep an eye on what the forecast is. And then so our average last frost date for where we're at is April 9th, and today is April 2nd. So we're about a week out. And so I want to talk about what to do with these plants before you plant them out in the garden. See, these plants have been babied in the house. I've had a little fan blowing on them and giving them a breeze, but the temperatures are pretty consistent. The lighting is consistent. The air is consistent. When you put them outside, it's a pretty big adjustment for them. And so if you just throw them out and they've never been outside before, they're going to struggle. They're going to stunt if they don't die. So what you do is you do what's called hardening off. And what hardening off is you get the plants acclimated to the outdoors. And so what you do is take your plants, you put them out one day in the shade for about an hour, and then you bring them back in. And it takes about a week to harden off. So the next day you're going to put them out for about 2 hours. And then the next day you're going to expose them to a little bit more, maybe more sunlight, let the sun shine on them a little bit more. Then the next day, by the end of the 7 days, they've experienced all the temperatures, all of the air, all of the wind, all of the sunlight, and they've experienced being outdoors through the night and the extreme temperature change that we have between the days and the nights. Right now we're running about 40 degrees at night, maybe 45, and in the day we're averaging anywhere from 60 to high 70s. And so this is good weather to get them acclimated. So that's what I'm doing with the chilies and the tomatoes, is I'm starting their acclimation process. And with a lot of the herbs and the flowers, a lot of the ones I planted can handle a little bit of a cooler weather, so I've already started hardening them off. They're pretty much ready to plant. And all of the plants that I planted on the 18th of March, it's only been a couple of weeks, but those things are all cool weather. Lettuces like it cool, chard likes it cool. Dill, I'm not sure about dill. I think dill can handle what we're doing right now, what our weather is right now. But anyways, and the spinach. So I'm gonna go ahead and they've already started the hardening off process. I'm about halfway done with those. And so it's time to start getting some of this into the ground. And so I just wanted to talk about that. If you had never heard of it, then that's what that is. Don't throw your plants out there without getting them used to the outdoors. Oh, I also wanted to show you, there are some items that I did plant on the 17th of February, and I've already put them in the beds that they're going to be raised in. Over here in the galvanized raised beds, we've already started planting some of the items. If you want to see how we installed these raised beds, we do have a video out on that. So I'll link that so you can see. But right here, I've already planted beets, rutabaga, and cabbage that I had started seeds for on February 17th. And they're doing really good because all of these like it cool. And I hardened them off already and got them out here as soon as I could. And then I also threw in some onions over here on the side. These are onions that I planted from seed back on January 23rd in the house. And I put them out here. They're very small. You can see there. There you go. So we'll see what happens with these. I just wanted a lot of onions this year. And like I said in some past videos, I am trying out different timing of onions and different circumstances, different conditions of starting them. Some I started outside, some I started in the house. So we'll see which ones do the best for us. And then one of these other galvanized raised beds, I did more rutabaga. And then also some beets that I started in the house on February 6th. So these had a longer start before planting them out here. I also wanted to show you that after we had recorded the video of us getting these beds ready, I have a very good friend who has rabbits at her house. And she brought me over some rabbit manure, and it had you'll also see a little bit of straw in there because the cage had straw in it as well. But I'm super excited. I added it to these beds, and rabbit manure is like the best manure you can put in your garden because it doesn't have to be composted down. It's already ready to feed the plants, and it won't burn them. So if you have rabbits, don't let that go to waste. Anyhow, just wanted you guys to see how things are going with the seedlings. Thanks for watching. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us as we learn to live a more natural lifestyle. I hope you have a blessed day.